And now, our feature presentation.
The best
in the world
is right here, right now.
Whether you like it or don't like it, pal, learn to love it.
Ladies and gentlemen,
welcome.
All right, listen up.
Now it's our time to step forward. It's time to bring the NWA back into the spotlight.
I was thinking that it might be a good idea if you and I formed an alliance.
Let's get ready to rumble!
Attention, everyone. Welcome to the greatest wrestling program in the world. Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? Stop what you're doing and listen.
It's the Alliance Guys podcast with your hosts Kevin Frazier, DKM, and Cal.
All right, guys. Hey, it is the Alliance Guys podcast. We're back. It's Thursday night. So, you know, me and Kev Dog, baby, we're here to talk some United Wrestling Network. We're here to talk NWA. We're here to talk Primetime Live.
That was me with the intro on the YouTube. I'm pretty pumped up tonight. I really love this interactive stuff when we get to listen and talk with the people that are kind of joining in with us. That makes it really fun to, call some improv and see what the people have to say.
Yeah, man. And I'll be honest, not for years, but for about a year or so, when we started doing this recap of NWA Power, we would sit there and record this and then wait about, 4 days before we'd actually get it live and upload it so people could watch it. And man, what a missed opportunity, because we could have had so much time talking to everybody about what was going on with NWA Power. It's not just Kevin Frazier's show. It's not
you
just
can put the Douglas out there.
It's not just DKM show. It's not just the Cal show. It's our collective show. It's the Alliance blog. So it's cool that we have this going on. I already see the Woodland Goblin is here. If you guys are watching this, whether it be on Facebook or YouTube or on Twitch, leave a comment. We can see your comments. They pop up here on the screen. We will answer your questions. We will engage with you. This show is all about community. I know a lot of you guys out there know that hashtag NWA fam, and that's what we're all about. Of course, Kev, I would be remiss if we didn't mention the NWA Women's World Champion will be returning to Primetime Live in 2 weeks. The NWA Television Champion will be returning to Primetime Live in 1 week. And of course, the announcement we got on Thursday night is the creation of the United Wrestling Network World Championship. Kevin, you know more than anybody else what a championship can do for your career, what being a world champion means. The United Wrestling Network is a promotion you've been associated with on and off for a good chunk of those 8 years that they've been in existence. The show itself has been around for about 10 years, but you were a part of that show early and often. What do you think? Finally, United Wrestling Network is going to crown a new world's champion.
It's always impressive to me when you see somebody with the level of production, the level of thought, the level of passion, effort that Dave Marquez puts into his product. To see him have the kind of patience that he's had for this long a time, most companies want to throw out their title and call it a world championship just the minute they get it. But Dave has always had a high regard for world championships and what they mean. And so I think he does not take this lightly at all, and I think this means a lot to him. And what's cool is when something that means a lot to you also means a lot to your fans at the same time. It's a time in history. I think it's a historic thing, and I couldn't be happier for him. And I'm just glad to have been part of just a small part of such a really a unique history of a company that has really carved its own path. When you really think about it, you know, they've been plugging away at it, and they've always produced something really quality, and that was a big reason why I wanted to be a part of it in the first place.
And you're right. I mean, over the course of, gosh, I've known Dave Marquez for at least 20 years. And I know that some people, well, not some people, Dave Marquez recently said he's been in the wrestling business for about 30 years. But every time I've known Dave, he's always done a great job of recognizing champions from abroad. You know, it wasn't just champions that he promoted, like not just the NWA champions. I mean, when he was doing the New Japan show, you know, back in like 2004, he was promoting the Ring of Honor World Champion in Samoa Joe. When he was promoting the events in Santa Monica in the dojo, I mean, he was recognizing Rocky Romero as the CMLL Superliga champion. And of course, you know, he's always recognized the NWA champions when he was a part of the NWA. But even after that, after the split, he still recognized, you know, Tim Storm and Cody, and of course Nick Aldis. So to me, I don't think there's any kind of conflict of interest by him introducing his own champion. And I know a lot of people get this confused, that this idea, this concept that Primetime Live is the NWA. It's not. These are two separate entities working together, much like when the NWA worked with Ring of Honor during the Crockett Cup, or when Ring of Honor was working with New Japan Pro Wrestling. You know, they're recognizing their own titles as well as other companies' titles. There's no real conflict. Do you agree?
Yeah, and I think that for wrestling, and again, when I say this is not a knock, or because again, I like WWE wrestling, so I'm not one of those WWE's, you know, the Evil Empire or the, you know, the whatever. But if you're going to have products that compete at somewhere in that level, it's got to be a cumulative thing, because they have so many resources, they have so much reach in terms of what they can accomplish. And again, trying to pretend like that doesn't even exist is like being in the baseball league and pretending like the Yankees don't exist. You know, or it just, come on. It's something you need to deal with, and it's okay to have a standard to try to match. And if you are secure in yourself, it's kind of like when Adam Pearce was the world heavyweight champion and I was the world junior heavyweight champion. You know, if you're secure in where you're at, you can maximize what you have, and you don't have to step on other people in order to do that. And I just think that as the, you know, with the National Wrestling Alliance, with his interactions with New Japan, with the companies, Ring of Honor, I mean, these are all reputable companies that believe enough in him to partner with him and put their brand on his product. It's a two-way thing. So I really think that it's really one of those under-the-radar products right now, and I can't wait to get into the show because, you know, one of the things that I have loved about this show is it's been wrestling, and has it always been great? Like, has every match been great? No. What show is every match great? Just give me a break, okay? I mean, there was a stretch there probably in 2014 to about 2018, maybe somewhere in there, where I felt like the NXT brand had lightning in a bottle kind of thing. I don't know if they knew what they were doing, you know, if they were, I mean, but it came from them just putting wrestlers out there and letting them wrestle, and I just think that there's so many wrestlers out there that want to wrestle like that, and there's so many fans out there that want to see wrestling like that. And so, again, I'm not trying to segue here into the opening match, but I think the opening match was a great example of that, where it was just, you know, you had a young New Japan wrestler out there just wrestling.
Oh, yeah.
And, man, talk about, like, I love that. And I can critique the matches like anybody could, but as a whole, I have really enjoyed the fact that I'm just getting to watch professional wrestling in these shows. Hats off to the entire production team, and for somebody to put something out there especially because it feels like there's a little bit of a vacuum there with the NXT brand going to a live show. It has changed the way the show is. It's just not the same. And so I just have high hopes for people that I like. So I really hope that this thing continues to grow and they really continue to put together a quality product. And, somebody out there just has to have wrestling matches that tell a story in the match instead of, all the other hoopla.
I want to point out, again, you guys, when you're chatting here in the YouTube page or Facebook or even Twitch, it all comes onto the screen. We see it. You're part of the chat. You're part of the show. What you're saying shows up on the screen. So, don't go crazy. Don't make me turn it off. But I do want to point out that Woodland Goblin said that the NWA United Wrestling Network partnership is so much better than the road they were going to take before COVID with Ring of Honor. And then Dave Scooby, friend of the show, he's the one that produced the sound for the intro. If you guys like our intro, Dave Scooby is the man to thank for that. He also does the intro for the pre-party. He says he likes that Dave isn't having a weight limit restriction on the United Wrestling Network World Title, and anyone can compete. And I know we want to get to the show, but just the one more point about that is, Dave even mentioned in the announcement that due to COVID-19 restrictions, a lot of talent that would have been included in this tournament just can't make it. There's no way that they can get out to this country. You have to quarantine for 14 days before they'll let you into the country, let you do anything. And most people aren't willing to do that right now. So you'll see some more open weight guys. And I mean, I'm just speculating here, but somebody like Chris Dickinson, who, he's built like a truck, but I don't think he's a genuine heavyweight. He's certainly going to be in this. He has to be in this tournament, right, Kev?
Think about it. He's only been the most visible guy that they've had on the show. Knowing how wrestling is, knowing how especially inaugural champions typically end up in the positions that they end up in. I have my personal favorite who I'd like to see as champion. I'm probably not going to get it, but
throw it out there.
We can get to we'll get to that as the show goes on, because spoiler, he wrestled on the card tonight.
Okay.
Or Tuesday night.
Okay. Well, let's get to it then. So this was the 5th episode of Primetime Live. And as I was writing my review for that on SoCalUncensored.com, I was gloating at the fact that, there was a lot of technical snafus on episode 1, and it really did kind of hurt the overall live feel of the product. Of course, they re-upped the episode with all the technical glitches taken care of. But the show itself that night, a lot of people were disappointed because of the tech issues. So I was saying, we're 1 month into it. All the tech issues are all cleared up. The wrestling has been, pretty solid, either solid or really, really good. And it's been very exciting to me anyways. And why is my phone ringing during the middle of a podcast? That's just no good. But as soon as I say that, as soon as I write that down, of course, the show starts off with some tech issues. We have some issues where we can't even see what's going on. We miss all the backstage promos that I've been very happy with that lead up to the show. The characters describing who and what is going on. So that was kind of a downer for me, because I did appreciate those backstage vignettes to kind of get you familiar with the talent that'll be appearing on the card.
Right.
But it does kick off. The show kicks off just in time to see Clark Connors enter the ring. Mr. Intensity. He looks like somebody spat in his lunch or stole his lunch money, because he looks pissed off. And, it's real exciting to see this match. Of course, what can you say about Danny Limelight? The kid has got it. Whatever it is, he has it in spades. He's a member of the New Japan Strong show that comes out weekly. He's a part of the Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. This is his 3rd appearance on Primetime Live. He's going to be a part of Game Changer Wrestling out here in Orange County, California this weekend. He's going to be on New Japan Strong on Friday night. This kid is everywhere. And like I said, he's got charisma in spades. This match.
What can we say about Danny Limelight that we haven't already said? Except for that we see it week in and week out now. Like, it's not just a one-hit thing. He's week in and week out proven that he's being an opener is a art form, and I think that he's great for that. And I think, again, as I love that they put him in with the tag team. But we'll I didn't mean to cut you off there, but go ahead and jump into what you were saying.
Oh, I'm just saying he's so versatile, just like you were saying. We see him in the opening card. We see him in a tag team. And again, if you guys are watching New Japan Strong on New Japan World, I mean, he's in the tournament finals with Clark Connors. This is a rematch from the main event from New Japan Strong last Friday. So, I mean, Danny Limelight, is just, I don't know. I can't say enough good things about him. He's been on our podcast in the past. You can check that out in the interview section on the playlist on the YouTube page. But this match I thought was terrific. It's exactly what you would expect from a junior heavyweight division match. Connors, they kept pointing out he's still considered a young lion in the LA dojo, so he's still restricted to a certain move set to the black trunks. But that guy can work, and even with the limited moves that he can do, I mean, he was just, again, intense, deliberate. I mean, I really felt like he was just awesome. And again, Limelight, sometimes looking overmatched but never outclassed, if that's a thing, would always find ways to rebound in the match and really find a way to get an advantage, even though Connors was constantly like breaking him back down. Limelight was finding a way to get back up again. What did you think, Kev?
Of course, I'm gonna love this match. This type of match is probably everything that got me into wrestling. Japanese junior heavyweight style wrestling, where the company actually gives them enough time that they don't feel pressured to have to do a bunch of high flying moves in a time frame that makes no sense. I really enjoyed the build-up of the match. I really enjoyed again, there's just a lot to be said about ring positioning, timing. Some of the moves had a little... if there's any advice I could give to everybody on that show is just realize you're in a moment, slow down and take the moment. That you don't have to... If things don't look like they're going 100% right, or they don't feel like that, if you just take just a breath, like a swift, it only takes 1 second, and it can absolutely change the pacing and the timing. So there's a couple times where it felt like they got a little ahead of themselves, or maybe got a little rushed, or felt a little pressed. But again, I'm not here to pick that type of stuff apart. I just like to watch wrestling and enjoy it. And, when they were going into the chops and there was just a lot. I love when a match like this, it's intense. It feels like a fight, but it doesn't always have to feel personal.
Yeah.
I don't think those guys don't like each other. I just think they went in there and beat the crap out of each other. And that's what I love about Japanese or New Japan junior heavyweight style wrestling. And I love that I get to watch it, on American soil, produced by people who really respect it. I can get emotional talking about that because I would have loved to have that opportunity 10 years ago.
And the thing about this matchup too is, Clark Connors might not be well known in a lot of wrestling circles. But if you're a fan of New Japan Pro Wrestling, I mean, Clark Connors, even though he's still classified as a young lion, literally spent most of last year wrestling either in the United States or in Japan for New Japan Pro Wrestling. He was a part of those tours that they did with Ring of Honor, where you would see, they toured all over the United States. And when he hasn't been wrestling in New Japan, in Japan or in the United States, I mean, he's been working at these dojo shows. And this is a guy, he didn't break into the business just last year. I mean, he's a graduate of the Storm Wrestling Academy. So, I mean, even before he got to the dojo, he was trained by Lance Storm. So that just goes to show you, Your buddy Nick Madrid was trained by Lance Storm. So I mean, there's something to be said about somebody who came out of the Storm Wrestling Academy, but then to go through with Shibata and learn that New Japan style. I mean, Clark Connors is a damn machine. And the match that he and Danny Limelight put together stole the show for me. I think it was the best match on the card. And again, every time Danny Limelight's in the ring, you've got a captive audience in this guy.
Well, I before we just talk forever about the match, and I had a thought, and I feel like I kind of lost it. But anyways, I was just gonna again talk good about how things are. Oh, okay, no. When you hear about a guy who's trained by Lance Storm, but then humbles himself and puts himself back into a position of almost starting all over,
right?
You know, you don't lose what you knew. You know, you just have to learn a new method, and then whatever you had that made you good before will start to shine through whenever you start doing the new thing. So to hear that he had the humility to kind of reinvent himself or reset and start over, that alone is probably as impressive as his wrestling, because it tells me that he's got a long career, because that kind of attitude not only will take you really far in wrestling, but it'll take you far in life.
So, again, that was a great match to lead off this show. Then we get the backstage promo with Fred Rosser. Mr. No Days Off, the former primetime player, former WWE World Tag Team Champion with Titus O'Neil. But what people don't remember or might not know is that Fred Rosser was part of that Reclaiming the Glory tournament that crowned a new world champion back in 2007. In fact, he wrestled Glamour Boy Shane in Arizona and advanced to the quarterfinals, where he lost to Brent Albright in Chula Vista, California. Those two matches were part of what brought the World's Heavyweight Championship back to the NWA, back to Adam Pearce, Brent Albright, and all of that fun time. And Fred Rosser was an important part of that. So, I mean, besides what he did in WWE, his connections to the NWA, to what Dave Marquez has been doing for the past 20 years, it's all connected. It was nice to see him. Then we get Chris Masters, again, another guy who has ties back to Dave Marquez when he was producing UPW. He's back in the LA area, and he's here. And then lo and behold, James Storm. I wasn't expecting James Storm, and I feel like they probably would have got a few more buys from that NWA crowd if they would have put James Storm's name on the flyer. He walks into the picture, nothing but respect for Fred Rosser. Obviously looking for a fight with Chris Masters. This one-on-one match has now become a three-way match. What did you think about the promo? What did you think about the match change?
What is the thing that Devin always says about a fungus and they grow on you or something like that?
Yeah.
You know, that's how James Storm is with me. I want so bad not to like James Storm. But when he comes in and he's drinking a beer, I don't drink, but it doesn't matter. It's just his character. I like his character. I'm guilty, you know. Probably why he's been so well traveled and had so much of success in his career, because he's really just a likable character. Personally, you know, no Chris Masters. You know, I mean, good to see him still going at it. Hope he's getting paid. Not as much familiar with, is it Rosser? I know I'm going to sound terrible not knowing a lot about him. I know his face. I've seen him. I remember seeing him. Just during his time at the WWE, I wasn't as into that at that time. Probably because I was wrestling or coming out of wrestling. Just a different time for me. So I don't have a big sample size for it. But the promo was good. James Storm pretty much stole the show, but made it fun. I enjoyed it.
It should be noted that James Storm, who is one half of the NWA Tag Team Champions, they didn't acknowledge that on the pay-per-view. He's currently without a contract. He's not under the NWA banner. So for him to show up again, it wasn't an NWA match. It wasn't sanctioned by the National Wrestling Alliance, but I think it was pretty cool that he was there. which leads us to the first and only women's match on the card tonight. We get Heather Monroe versus Elena Black. Now, Heather Monroe, I mean, come on. We've been talking about Heather Monroe for weeks. She's been a star for Championship Wrestling for Hollywood for well over 2 years. She's basically leading that division. She's keeping women's wrestling viable in Hollywood. If it wasn't for Heather Monroe, I don't know that we would even have a women's division to talk about on United Wrestling Network. And here it is. You know, they announced last weekend that there would be a creation of a women's championship in on the United Wrestling Network. So, I mean, as much as we're celebrating the arrival of a world champion, they also kind of slid that under their radar that they're creating a women's division, a women's championship, and I gotta think Heather Monroe is going to be a part of that. And then, of course, her opponent was one of the standout, one of the shining stars of the collective that happened this past weekend, where it was Shimmer and Bloodsport and Effie's Gay Brunch and everything else that was in between. And Elena Black was out there, and she was, a lot of people were just talking about how great she was for Shimmer. Heather Monroe was also out there as well. So these two show up in in Long Beach for Primetime Live. I was really happy with the match. Heather Monroe, again, is a ring veteran. She's trained by Joey Chaos. I know Kikuchi in the chat isn't a big fan of Joey Chaos, but the guy has literally created like 20 or 30 awesome talents right out of here in Southern California. This matchup, no surprise, Heather Monroe takes control, and it doesn't matter what Elena attempts to do. Heather Monroe has a counter. Heather Monroe has a way to take advantage. Even having her manager Houston body on the outside to cause that distraction that allowed her to get that double stomp, that patented double stomp. I've seen her do that on Allison Kay. I've seen her do that on Barbie Hayden, and I've seen her do that on Jazz. That's a hallmark of Heather Monroe. When she hits that move, chances are she's in a good spot. She ends up taking the match with a Michinoku driver. All in all, I thought this was a really good match. Maybe not as good as some of the other matches we've seen in the last month, but certainly a good match, a good solid match. Kevin, what was your criticisms or compliments? What do you have?
I don't want to be overly critical of the match, just because I know they went out there and worked hard. I know they did. I could watch and just tell, and it's just something in me that has trouble poo-pooing somebody's body of work, especially with the reputation that Heather Monroe has. The match just didn't really do it for me. But again, it was wrestling. They wrestled. I think maybe the match went a tad bit too long just because it looked like they both got tired. Either that or they didn't pace themselves good enough in the match to kind of have a little bit. And that happens. I mean, dude, you get on TV and sometimes you get in a hurry and, no one's trying to have a bad match. So, and again, I'm not going to say the match was bad. I think you kind of said it best. There have been so many good matches so far on this show that it just didn't measure up. And what a great standard to have when you have people that have that much credentials and everything, and for them to go out there, work really hard, and still not measure up as far as my opinion to what I've seen up thus far. So again, I'm not saying it was a bad match. I think I'd need a bigger sample size because I haven't seen a lot of Heather Monroe or the other girl. So again, I think I need a little more. But again, like with the girl last week, Ryan.
Yeah, Lacie Ryan.
Lacie. I mean, the way she moves in the ring compared to them, it's just. Again, Jazz was my train. I mean, I know women can do as good or better than what the men do in the ring. I know that, and the reason that women like Jazz or Lacie Ryan move the way they do and have the prowess that they do is the work ethic off the mat that they do. That's what makes a difference. So I think those two girls are good workers. But if I were to tell them like, what do I need to do to take it to the next level? It's not you need to do more moves or be more creative. You need to get in better shape. Because when you look at somebody like Lacie Ryan, or Jazz, Thunder Rosa, Jesus. Like, I mean, the shape that they're in creates an opportunity. This is sports still. You're an athlete. You have to train that way. You have to diet like that. So that the eyeball, because the eyeball test will tell you, even if you're not a big wrestling fanatic or whatever, if you were to watch, like, say, a Thunder Rosa match, like, say we watched Lacie Ryan and Thunder Rosa, then we watched this match, it would have looked like it was going in slow motion. And again, this is not a knock on those girls. I think they're good. I just feel like, you know, you're not, every match you put out there is not going to be the best match you put out there. But I don't think there was a lack. I don't think anybody dropped the ball or crapped the bet on it. It's just kind of one of those matches where I felt like they tried hard, but they need a little work.
And then just the folks in the in our live stream, live chat right now, Woodland Goblin says Heather Monroe is. Oh, excuse me. Let me say Craig S. first said he predicts that Heather Monroe will be the first United Wrestling Network Women's Champion. And then Woodland Goblin says, no, that's too obvious. It has to be someone else. It won't be Heather Monroe. Won't be the first champion. And that will remain to be seen. I don't know how they're going to crown that title. I don't know if that's going to be a product on Primetime Live or if that's going to be a product on Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. Because again, I mean, they're doing a tournament right now. Well, they will be doing that tournament to crown a new world champion, a men's champion, on the pay-per-view. So I don't know how much time they'll have to actually showcase women's wrestling. So we'll have to wait and see with that.
My guess on that's going to be it's Dave. He's not dumb. They'll probably showcase it in a completely different package it and showcase it in its own, give it its own due respect.
Yeah.
But while we're on talking about champions, I mean, I know she's the FSW champion, but right now, if you're not talking about Thunder Rosa, I think Lacie Ryan is the best woman I've seen on there after Thunder Rosa, for sure. I think Priscilla Kelly?
Yeah.
Priscilla Kelly was pretty good, too. I mean, I just don't know if I think she's, like, banner carrier material at this stage. Somebody you can hang your banner on her and she'll. And again, what about a title versus title Thunder Rosa Lacie Ryan match would be? Give me 25 minutes of that, please.
And speaking of Lacie Ryan, outside of the United Wrestling Network, she's going to be a part of Thunder Rosa's next event, Mission Pro Wrestling. That takes place on November the 6th. They're doing a tournament to crown a Mission Pro champion. Some of Jazz's students will actually be on that card. I'm not super familiar with the roster, but we know that Thunder Rosa defends her title against Ray Lynn. And then we also know that that Lacie Ryan will be on that card and be part of that tournament. And then Kikuchi asked me a question, hey, Jay, have you always been a fan of women's wrestling? And the answer is no. Hell no. Because women's wrestling about 5 years ago, well, maybe 5 years ago, let's say women's wrestling about 10 years ago was pretty much garbage. It was either TNA models who didn't really belong in the ring, or it was just an excuse to go to the bathroom. And I really feel like in the last 10 years or so, you've seen a change. You've seen a transition. I mean, women like Jazz have been around for a very long time. But, you know, it wasn't until the WWE started taking women's wrestling seriously that you saw serious women's wrestling around the country. And, I mean, you had Jazz. And Trish Stratus started off as one of these models, but she actually turned into a pretty damn good wrestler. You had Amy Dumas, Lita, again, was a pretty good wrestler. And then that transition, you had Mickie James, a good wrestler. But on the indies, it took a while for it to get there. When the women's championship, I mean, For the NWA, I mean, it's always been pretty decent, whoever the champion was. I mean, it was Amazing Kong, or if it was Mischief, Tasha Simone, Casey Carlisle. I mean, we've always have been very fortunate to have really good women's champions. Of course, Jazz, I thought, was a great women's champion. I wish she would have had more time with that title. And, of course, I think Thunder Rosa has been doing an amazing job. I really did like Casey Carlisle. I liked her in-ring ability. Locally, I do like Heather Monroe. I don't think that Tuesday night was her best match, but I know that I've seen her work, and I think she's a pretty good worker. Ruby Reyes is one of my favorites. I think she really fits that mold of a brawler, a bruiser in the women's division, and not unlike Awesome Kong. So just getting back to women's wrestling, those are some of the women that I've enjoyed watching. Craig S. says Gail Kim is being a notable exception in TNA, and there you go. Yeah, Gail Kim was also very good, and TNA has had Impact has had a handful of solid women's wrestlers. Tessa Blanchard, I mean, despite what you think of her as a human being, there's no doubt about it. She's a great, phenomenal wrestler, and you can't really argue with that. Kevin, do you have anything you want to add? Who's your favorite women's wrestler?
I mean, Jazz is. I mean, I feel like I got to go toe to toe every day for 2 years with the best athlete I've ever known, much less the best woman athlete I've ever known. I have stories of in practice where we would spend hours working on stuff, to perfect it and get it right. And I'm telling you, Jazz would walk in there 15 minutes and do it all right. I mean, and me and Rodney would just look at each other and just be like, what did we just see? And it's just funny because we wouldn't really get mad, but we'd be like, get out of here, like go kick back and sip some tea or something, because us normal human beings in here are trying to like learn what you just do without trying, but really understanding like where she came from and how hard she worked to get there. And when you talk about girls like Lita and Trish Stratus, I mean, Jazz is a common denominator when you talk about them, and you have to understand that someone like, again, you have Ric Flair who had to carry some of these guys, some of these wrestlers that weren't nearly at his level, like a Sting, like a Lex Luger, some of these guys that were not at the level of Ric Flair as a worker, and he brought them up. And what you saw was they took what they learned from their matches with a guy like Flair or Ricky Steamboat, and they would take that to their other matches, and it really helped them have good matches when they weren't in the ring with them. And again, I think that was a huge impact or influence that Jazz had. I do know that they were even offered to be trainers for the WWE at one point just because of their ability. So, I mean, I'm going to be a little bit partial to Jazz. I did really enjoy women's wrestling in NXT for a few years, for sure, in terms of just most recently. And I think what we've seen out of Thunder Rosa over the last year or so has been, and again, someone who has a lot of interaction with Jazz. They have, a lot of personal interaction, and they know each other and have a lot of a lot of interactions. So Kikuchi says, someone once said, it might have been me, that Jazz was even tougher than her husband Rodney. It's like you're comparing like 1A to 1B. I know there's a story where XPW came and started a fight with the ECW locker room, and Rodney speared a guy through a concrete wall.
Whoa.
Beat up half the XPW locker room. So I would say that Rodney has his own legacy. He's probably the meanest, toughest, baddest dude I've ever seen. Jazz, when you just talk about pure athleticism, just a gift. I just never seen anything quite like the way her athletic core, like the way she was able to do, just where she came from and how good she was athletically. And again, if you're talking about girl wrestlers, I don't think any girl in their right mind would ever want to get on the wrong side of her. Or guys, for that matter.
No doubt. And so that brings us getting past this match. And again, we could talk about women's wrestling all day.
Sure.
Mission Pro Wrestling, November 6th. It's available on Title Match Network. If you guys are a fan, make sure you check that out. Not only are you going to get a women's championship match, but you'll have it's a whole tournament of solid, good to great women's wrestling. They're going to and this is it's funny because we talked about it. I think this was while we were talking about the title tournament. Chris Dickinson wasn't even here Chris Dickinson I think he was out in New Jersey Indiana for the collective that they did this past weekend. So he wasn't even here at these tapings. He wasn't going to be here, but they still found a way to work him in by showing him last week, saying that he won't return to the United Wrestling Network until he gets some competition. So Chris Dickinson has been on the program more than Dave Marquez at this point. Chris Dickinson, the only person that's been on the show more than him is Todd Kennelly. And it's just, it cracks me up how much of an important part of the show he genuinely is. And again, I thought it was kind of great that they, still found a way to put him on the show. Did you have anything you want to add to that, Kev, before we go to the next match?
No, I mean, I think we've talked at length about Chris, and I think it's, he's an obvious staple to the show. I just hope the build-up, I hope the payoff lives up to the build-up, is all I can say as far as him. I haven't seen him really wrestle a match yet. I've only seen these kind of quick things, and frankly, I thought the guy he fought the last match, forgot his name already, but he's wrestling next week.
Max Caster.
I thought Max Caster kind of outshone him. So, I want to see a big-time match for all this build-up, is all I'm saying.
So the next match we get is for the West Coast Pro Wrestling Heavyweight Championship, which means we get everybody's favorite physical specimen, Alexander Hammerstone. Now, Kev, you're a body guy. I mean, you're literally in the gym every single day. What kind of dedication does it get to jump into the ring and look like Hammerstone does on a day-to-day basis?
I mean, well, if you guys follow him on social media, you get an idea. I mean, the guy was off and he's one of the few guys I follow on social media. For one, I know him personally. For a guy that always had star caliber and was always kind of had star written all over him, one of the most humble guys you'll ever meet. Did we lose Jay?
How about now?
There he is. Okay, he's back. One of the most humble guys you'll meet. Treats everybody like they matter, which I think is a huge personal quality. But at the same time, we always talk about the it factor on here, right? And I really think he has the it factor. We're in quarantine and he's rolling barbells and plates out to the sidewalk, doing deadlifts with his girlfriend on his back, and playing the guitar and cutting promos, and then he did a bodybuilding show and won. I mean, the guy has a hunger for it. He's a competitor. He has a competitive spirit about him, and I just think it's a matter of time. And I'm gonna go with Kokushi. It's my wish list. It's probably not going to happen because he carries a banner for so many other companies. But if I'm UWN, I want to at least have that guy's name on my champions list to say he was one of our champions. But I believe he would be he is the epitome of a banner carrier and a champion for a company. Just certain little details about the match that I just love. The guy snaps his fingers the whole time. Once Hammerstone gets back over on him, he snaps his fingers.
Yeah.
And he does it camera side. Has great ring positioning, knows how to pose, knows how to pantomime. Has a great smolder, which you got to have that in wrestling. Have you seen my smolder yet, Jay?
Have I seen what?
Have you seen my smolder? The
Oh,
smolder?
Yeah. Do it. Give us the smolder.
Give me a countdown.
And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Smolder. Oh my God.
Everybody okay? All right. Hammerstone would be my champ. He would be my champ. He's a banner carrier guy. I didn't think this was his best match, but I think a lot of that had to do with the opponent. If I was his manager, which I've actually thrown my hat in the ring to be his manager, I would love to walk that guy out to the ring and tell everybody how great he is. But if I was his manager and sitting him down after the match, number one, I would tell him to beat the crap out of that guy more because that's what we want to see. instead of giving him so much in the match. I felt like the guy that he was wrestling was not thinking about who he was in the ring with, and I think it took away from it. So I'd like to see him have a better quality opponent. And then, of course, the finish didn't go quite the way I think it was we had hoped, but we got the finish we wanted, which was Hammerstone getting over, winning the match. And I think for ratings' sake, for credibility's sake, for the fact that you need star power on this show, and as hard as they're working, as hard as they've had to work to try to make Chris Dickinson a star, Hammerstone walks out and is that star in spades just with an entrance. And no promo.
And wow. I mean, and that's high praise. He's had 2 matches now, both of which were with much smaller guys, much more competitors that rely on speed and quick strikes. And I kind of would like to, if we're throwing around these heavyweights, I mean, we had Fred Rosser on the show, we had James Storm on the show, we had Chris Masters on the show. I would have loved to seen Hammerstone get in the ring with one of those guys, especially a guy like Chris Masters. I mean, when you talk about dudes who are just jacked up, I mean, let me see what Hammerstone can do with somebody his own size. And that's not to pull any punches on Hammerstone or to point the finger and say he's not good. I think he's a great wrestler. I just want to see him in the ring with somebody who's going to push him, where he can't just rely on that strength and power. Let me see some of his finesse. Let me see some of his wrestling skills, because he's more than just a body. If you think that Hammerstone is just a body, you're mistaken.
No, he worked very hard to become a work rate guy, especially. And guys that know how to work but have a look like that have to understand there's a balance between doing too much of the work rate stuff and just standing there and posing. It sounds cheesy, but it really matters. But another thing, I think you're probably going to see a collision course with Hammerstone and probably Dickinson or somebody of that nature. So again, they're probably keeping those types of guys apart for the moment, so that they can kind of roundabout and I didn't make a clue. There we go. And collide at some point. So I agree with you, and that I think is what we want to see, because I'd love nothing more to see him and Watts circle around, lock up, shove each other off, and yell at each other, and back each other back into the corner and chop each other and throw hammers until both of their chests are beat red.
Well, there you go.
I'd love to see that.
That's a ringing endorsement right there. And again, I didn't even bring up Watts. And then Eli Drake. I mean, there is some beefcakes. There are some big dudes on this show. And I mean, I would like to see some more of these heavyweights step in the ring with each other. Now, I kind of get it, too, because, West Coast Pro Wrestling is not the main event. It's not it's not on the marquee. Of course, they're broadcasting partners with Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. West Coast Pro Wrestling presents Championship Wrestling from Hollywood in the Bay Area. And so they want to make sure that they're recognizing that champion and he's a part of the show. But ultimately, I think it would behoove everybody involved to see Hammerstone in some more competitive matches. I like seeing squashes. I'm not against squashes, but if we're going to call these title matches, let's make the matches meaningful. And if they're not going to be title matches, just let the champion come in there and beat somebody up. And I'm okay with that, too. I'm okay with that. I think there's room for both.
Right. And I like to agree with Kokushi here that Hammerstone looks like a champion, talks like a champion, wrestles like a champion, walks like a champion, carries himself like a champion. When I look at Hammerstone, is like looking in a mirror. I get it. I feel the same way.
Kokushi.
But again, I think, and again, I'm gonna reach out to Hammerstone and hopefully we can get him on for an interview. I don't think that'll be a terribly hard thing to do. So again, a lot of these wrestlers want to do interviews as long as you're not going to back them into a corner, ask them who they're going to vote for or something crazy like that. Kind of the same thing with Ricky Starks. He was more than happy to come on. Just there's a few questions we don't ask. And I think as long as we play our cards right and ask the right questions, I don't think we'd have a problem getting him on here. And hopefully, again, we want to get these guys because we got Starks just in the right time. I don't think we could get him now.
No.
No. So, again, hopefully we can make that happen for those of you watching. What up, James? Hopefully we can make that happen. I'm going to do what I can. Hammerstone versus Tom Latimer. Oh, my God. give me that for 25 minutes. Just running, just give me headlock and then tackle and nobody bumps and yell at each other. Give me like 10 of those. Like just till the sweat's flying. Give me body slams and big lockups and rustles around the ring. Don't give me a bunch of drop down, tackle, crossover, bull crap. Just give me two big dudes beating the crap out of each other, yelling and screaming at each other. And again, not that Hammerstone couldn't do the drop down. He throws a great drop kick. And not that, God almighty, Thomas Latimer can go, man. That dude's like a machine.
I see, and I know we're getting off topic here, but Latimer, he's a guy who I just kind of thought was muscles. I didn't really think much of him, but he had that match with Trevor Murdoch, and those two just like he was throwing around Trevor. Match. He was throwing around Trevor Murdoch. Let me say that again. Yeah. He was throwing around Trevor Murdoch.
Such a good match.
We need more of that in wrestling. I saw a comment. Yeah. Sweet Vanilla said, "Let wrestlers wrestle." Yes. Look, we have 90 minutes a week on Primetime Live. There's room for heavyweight Haas matches. There's room for cruiserweight, high-flying, junior heavyweight wrestling. There's room for women's wrestling. There's room for tag team. And every once in a while, give me a title match, and I would be a very happy, happy man.
Yep. Well, we could spend all day on Hammerstone, so let's not be here all night.
If we start spending all show on Hammerstone, I think I'll get a lawsuit from Gary Horne from This Is the NWA podcast, because that's his gimmick. So again, going onto the card, as I kind of lost the cardboard. I was looking for some more Hammerstone stuff. Next up, we get the three-way match. Now, this match was very interesting because, again, the star power of this match has probably been the biggest amount of star power that has been on United Wrestling Network, because two of these guys were in the WWE. I mean, technically, all three of them wrestled for the WWE at one point. James Storm, of course, former Impact World Champion, currently is his name is on the NWA Tag Team titles. We have Fred Rosser, former WWE Tag Team Champion. We've got Chris Masters, who literally has been wrestling around the world. This match was very interesting to me. I really thought that this match was maybe better than I thought it was going to be. But then there were parts of it that I felt like were very cliche and very traditional three-way matches. Our friend DK, who's not with us tonight, normally is on the show with us. He'll be the first one to say, I hate three-way matches. And for the most part, I would agree. And the reason why I would agree was the exact reason why I would agree, because of this match. Because you have two guys who will beat up on one guy, and then that guy will sit out for 20 minutes or 10 minutes or 5 minutes, whatever it is. And then you have these other two guys fighting, and then one guy will get knocked out of the ring, and then you've got the other two guys fighting for a few minutes. And it just seems to me like that formula is so cliched, and it's so done to death. And I mean, wouldn't you have just popped if James Storm and Fred Rosser just beat the crap out of Chris Masters and got the pin and just ended it, and then a 5-minute match? But we got 10 minutes of a match inside the ring and somebody selling on the outside. Now, I will give credit where credit is due. James Storm did an excellent job of selling his injuries. Without the audience there, you could hear him yelling the entire time. At one point, Chris Masters comically was cheering on either Rosser or Storm, whoever was winning. So there were elements of the match that I thought were fun, and some of the moves were pretty brutal. Fred Rosser looked to be like the workhorse of this match, really taking the brunt of the punishment, spending the majority of the time in the ring. And all in all, it was an okay match. Again, for the star power that was involved, I think I would have rather seen a one-on-one match, but I get why they did it. It was kind of cool to have that pop of having James Storm on the show. Kevin, what did you think of this match? Do you agree or disagree with me?
Well, I actually agree with you about the cliche kind of thing, just because we had this conversation with the Shapiro match last week. You heard me I kind of went off on it. And again, I'm only saying that because you're on television, you're paid to be there. I think all three of these guys are using this show for the opportunity to elevate themselves to a point of getting noticed by a higher paying company. And if that's what you're going to do, why not make some waves out there and think a little bit harder about what you're going to do? If they have the ability, there's no shortage of talent. Just go out there, and when I say you don't have to work harder to work smarter. Again, I just think like you said, some of these stories are a little played out, and there's nothing. Again, I just think it's just you gotta try a little harder, and I don't mean harder like do more moves or run faster or jump higher. I just think it's professional wrestling. We know what it is. Just think a little more, give a little more thought, put a little more intention into it. And I think, guys, a guy like James Storm, there's 100 things that he could come up with to steal the spotlight that would be fun to watch and entertaining. Chris Masters is a great poser, has a great ring presence, has a great understanding of how to do that sort of thing. You just didn't see either of those things in the match. And like you said, the other guy, he's a workhorse, and he was doing that, but even he, at some points, to me, had a little bit of a sloppiness to him. And again, that's either because he's out of shape, or he's old like me, or because maybe he was moving too fast or didn't pace himself properly. Certain things of that nature, which can happen. But these are all veteran guys, so this kind of stuff shouldn't be happening in matches like that. And again, it's kind of a harsh criticism, but I will say I still enjoyed it, and I still like that the promoter in the company is trying. They're trying to put stuff out there that will sell some tickets and looks good on a marquee. I think that's important to do that.
And I think, again, I'm pretty sure James Storm was a late arrival. I don't think they were originally planning him to be a part of this match. I know he was out here in LA working with Ronda Rousey, helping. I don't know if that was her helping him in martial arts or him helping her in pro wrestling, but he's been out here. And I don't know, it was kind of cool to see him. And you're right, I felt like there were some things a little bit off about this match. This was James Storm's first match, basically since the whole pandemic pause. Chris Masters has got a few more matches under his belt. Fred Rosser's been wrestling with the New Japan Strong, much like our boy Danny Limelight and Clark Connors. So if his pacing was off, maybe he's just not used to being in the ring with guys who are actually bigger than him. I don't want to push any slide on it.
Moving a little slower. I mean, you might have been pressing a little bit. Sometimes you can be in great shape, but you start moving too fast and you get out of your timing. Or the match has got that. I don't know how to put that, but where there's kind of that struggle factor. You saw a little bit in the opening match, where it's not gelling completely in certain moments, and that'll wear you out faster than anything.
Now,
you start pressing a little bit.
My question for you, Kev, and it's also for you guys watching in the chat room, let me know, would you want to see any one of these three guys in the United Wrestling Network World Heavyweight Championship tournament? Would any three of these guys interest you in buying a ticket? Would that be of interest to you, Kev? You answer first, and then you guys in the chat room, let me know.
Yeah, I still, depending on what the roster looked like, I could see James Storm maybe bumping in the bottom, sneaking in there just because of his promo skills. His promos are worth buying a ticket just to watch him get up there and cut promos. He's funny and he's entertaining, and if he had to say, and when he has a good match, he has a good match. It's not always that way, but when he has a good match, he puts a good match out there. Chris Masters, I like him. I don't know. The personality's not there right now. Maybe it will be someday, but I feel like at this stage of his career, maybe it's just not there. Rosser, I think United Wrestling Network, I think they like him. I think they're kind of getting behind him a little bit. So I wouldn't be shocked to see him be a part of it, and wouldn't be shocked to see him go pretty far in it too. And if his matches one-on-one resemble the Danny Limelight, the God, what's the guy that was so impressive a few weeks ago from New Japan? Fredericks?
Carl Fredericks.
Fredericks. If his style matches some of that stuff I've seen from Limelight and Fredericks, and I mean, if it looks like that in the heavyweight division, I like to watch that stuff. So hopefully, like I said, I wouldn't mind seeing that too, and seeing him getting the push tonight, or seeing him get pushed on the show this week. I could see him going, being one of at least the final four, possibly one of the final guys in the thing, if not taking the whole thing. He's the first guy they pushed since Dickinson. I felt like they've really pushed since Dickinson. I almost feel like the NWA guys, they have them on there as a novelty. Same with Hammerstone. I don't know how seriously they take these guys as actual banner carriers for the company. They may be more polished guys that are there to build up the name of the title. But yeah, I could see him being one of the guys that they pushed through pretty far in that tournament.
And just so you know, in the chat room, Kikuchi says all three, especially if they put them with young talent to elevate them. Woodland Goblin says they're very high on Jordan Clearwater and United Wrestling Network. And Craig S says, yeah, all three of them. Woodland Goblin says Chris Masters. So, I mean, yeah, I guess we're kind of on that money that this viewing audience, anyways, would buy these guys in the tournament. Dave Scooby says Storm and Masters can still go and have name recognition. Roster has it as well, just needs a better push. And we don't have a lot of time for this either. It's not like they're going to build these guys into a tournament. Literally next week we get the names, and then immediately after that we start the tournament. So it's not like there's going to be a whole lot of time to build it. Of course, it's through social media. One of the best things about social media is that they can really kind of put that information out for the fans to digest, create that content outside of the pay-per-view to kind of get people fired up about it. But until they announce the names, there's really not a whole lot to talk about. And then it's, in 1 week's time, the tournament's starting. So it'll be interesting to see how they pull this off. I'm kind of with all of you guys. I agree. I think there's a place for each of them in the tournament. I just don't know if it's if they will be in the tournament.
Right.
I think that's fair.
I think Rosser is one of their guys. I think I wouldn't be. It just would shock me by the way the promo was set up. Again, I guess sometimes I have a good hunch on this thing. Moving along.
Well, cool.
There's a good statement in here, and I'll just make a recognition to it. Kikuchi just says, more importantly than who the first champion ends up being, who will the champion defend against, and how often they defend is even more important. So I'm pretty sure Dave Marquez is an old school defend the belt when it matters kind of guy. So you'll probably have to wait a little bit, have to work for some of those title defenses. But at the same time, I think that's a good thing.
I think whoever the champion's going to be is going to be somebody who they're going to be able to use on all of their platforms. So yes, Championship Wrestling from Hollywood is currently filming once a month, and they do 4 weeks of television taping. So you could literally have a guy show up for 1 day or 2 days and be on TV for a month. You have a weekly pay-per-view series, so a guy can come in there and have one big defense every month while also having a match in Hollywood. And then following that same formula, that same champion could be in Arizona 1 weekend a month. And that person could be in Memphis for one event a month, in Las Vegas for 1 weekend a month. And right there, we just booked somebody for 5 or 6 matches in a month and literally be on TV all month long. So, I don't know who it's going to be. I don't even know who some of the names are. I've tried, reaching out and sliding into Marquez's DMs, and he's just not having it. He's not telling me nothing. So we'll just have to wait till next Tuesday to see what happens. Mikey O'Shea, he just wants you to know that this podcast is sponsored by Raid Shadow Legends.
No.
Thank you, Mikey. I wish they were. They could just they could slip into my DMs and we can make that happen, but not so much.
Is Mikey jumping in on our podcast? Don't tell me that he's here.
No, he's on our Facebook page. I don't even know if he's actually watching. I just think he saw that it was on Facebook and then commented it. He's probably off making, he's got 10,000 TikTok followers, so I'm a little envious because I don't have any TikTok followers.
I love Mikey O'Shea on the internet. He's one of my favorite guys to find in my scroll throughs. So love him, love the guy. I love what he's been doing over the last few weeks. So good for him.
And again, not trying to get off the rails here, but if you guys are on TikTok, he certainly is worth a follow. One of my favorite things he does on TikTok is he starts breaking down receipts in wrestling matches. So you'll see like an episode of Nitro where somebody messed up and the other guy just lays into him, and Mikey kind of breaks it down for you. And me as a novice, I've never been in the ring before, so I don't know. You kind of have an idea when someone messes up. Like, ooh, that looks like that could have hurt. And then Mikey will point it out to you. He's like, yep, and right there, yep. And how he stomped on his head right there, yeah, that was legit. So there's your free plug,
great.
Mikey.
That's great. That's great stuff because that really does happen.
Oh, yeah.
Receipts are a real thing.
You know what? We should. Hey, Mikey, let's talk offline, but maybe that could be a weekly segment on this podcast. Mikey can break down
I would love to
see.
I would love to sit down and chat with him for a little bit just to catch up. He's a cool guy, and I really think he's talented in the ring.
Well, hey, Mikey, next week, there's your invitation. You could join us on the podcast as we break down Primetime Live episode number 6. But let's finish up with Primetime Live episode number 5 because we are running out of time here. We'll wrap it up. But we get the final match of the night. We get the United Wrestling Network television champion, the man that's been the face of the United Wrestling Network for, a couple months now. And I love Dan Joseph. He's a product of the United Wrestling Network training facility. He's a guy that's literally been part of that the United Wrestling Network since he got into wrestling. He held the tag team titles, the United Wrestling Network tag team titles, as part of PAC 3. After that tag team split up, he had an injury. He took some time away from the ring. He rehabilitated. He was in the announce booth for Championship Wrestling from Hollywood up until when he got back into the ring, and sure enough, he won that title by defeating Royce Isaacs earlier in the year. And throughout all of this, he's just been kind of quietly waiting for his opportunity to shine. The spotlight is big and bright in prime time, and he got his opportunity to have his first match with Levi Shapiro, defended the title, and that match wasn't good. It just wasn't good. There was pacing issues, there were timing issues. I was really hoping for a lot more with this match, and I think we got it. But this match wasn't a story to me about how good Dan Joseph was, maybe about how resilient Dan Joseph is. But this match to me was all about how good Dom Kubrick was in the ring, because I was really blown away. Again, another Santino student, 2018 Rookie of the Year from SoCal Uncensored. This match very much felt like it was a coming out party for Dom Kubrick, and really felt like he did a great job in this match of really dominating Dan Joseph, picking out that neck, working on the neck. Of course, it takes two to tango. Dan Joseph looked great selling the injury the entire time. I really felt this match did a good job of, again, showing how resilient Dan Joseph was, but more importantly, showcasing how good Dom Kubrick was. Kevin, what was your take on this match?
I felt like these guys worked really hard. I liked a lot of the match. I would put it in terms of its quality, like how good it was compared to. This is actually, and it's not a knock on their match, but it's kind of the same thing I said about the women's match, is that we've seen some good matches over these last 5 shows. This is coming from a wrestler guy too. I put different expectations on different types of matches. I expect less out of 2 big heavyweights than I do out. Am I echoing or am I good?
No, you're good. You're fine. Okay.
But I expect less out of 2 big heavyweights than I do out of 2 of the junior heavyweight kind of guys like this. Maybe I was just tired of much wrestling up to this point. Far was not a bad match. I don't think 90% of the wrestlers, maybe even more in the wrestling world, could have had a match like that. I I just guess I would have liked to seen a little more story, a little less beating each other up, but maybe a little more storytelling. That's probably all I could say. Dan Joseph was impressive. The other guy obviously was really impressive. I just felt like there was something missing in it, and I don't know what that was. Maybe the longer I think about it, I could give you that answer.
I agree with you. Again, I kind of felt like the match was good, and I enjoyed the match. I really felt like this card was worth the $7.99 I paid for it. I have no buyer's remorse. I did kind of feel like Dan Joseph's the champion here. He's the man. He actually has a height advantage and a weight advantage, and he's just getting his ass kicked.
Yeah.
And I kept scratching my head like, well, what story are they trying to tell here? Because unless Dom Kubrick is going to be your next guy, why is he selling so much for Dom? And the match was good. I saw a lot of unique offense from Dom Kubrick, and I thought, like, wow, that was interesting. Wow, look at that. You know, he did that leaping from the second rope, you know, through the rope to the cutter. I thought that was pretty cool. He tried to do that. He did that side Russian leg sweep off the second rope. I thought that was pretty cool. A lot of interesting moves that I saw, and it just was like, what story are you trying to tell? And if it's about Dan Joseph and being resilient, cool. But I kind of felt like he's losing to a guy that's so much smaller than him. Dan Joseph has 30 pounds on him, and Dan Joseph, he's a strong dude. Like Dave Marquez even said today on a live chat on Facebook that he thought that Dan Joseph was probably as strong as Eli Drake, just not as big. And if that's the case, then shouldn't he just be throwing this kid around? And I don't know.
And it's your champion.
Yeah.
You see my face, like, it's your champion.
Yeah.
I had a match against Tokyo Monster Cahagas. It was a title versus title match.
Yeah.
It's on YouTube if you want to go see it. Kevin Douglas versus Cahagas. And, he's bigger than me. He's technically in the heavyweight division or just made the weight class so we can have a title versus title match. And, I'm trying to show that he's a bigger, stronger guy. And I am also trying to create an underdog scenario. But you have to have fight. There has to be a certain, amount of fight if you're going to get beat up the whole match. And again, if you're the champion, you need a little more out of that. You just need a little more out of the champion than that. Again, the guy getting the crap beat out of him. And like you said, apparently he's as strong as Eli Drake. I guarantee you Eli Drake wasn't getting the crap beat out of him like that against Big Watts. And that's all I'm saying. So, I definitely think that there was a little, and again, I don't know how long Dan Joseph's been wrestling, so I don't want to be insulting, but it did feel a little bit like they didn't know their psychology was just off a little bit in terms of maybe some mistakes like a green wrestler might make. So, and again, I don't mean that as an insult. Like I said, I don't think too many wrestlers out there could pull off some of the moves that they did and do them as well as they did them. And not die, but yeah, and what Woodland says is they bring up he's a fighting champion, he doesn't give up. I get that, but you don't have to get the crap beat out of you to show that.
No.
So again, like I said in the match I had with Cahagas, yeah, he was the heel. He had that kind of beat me up, but I wasn't about to just get rolled over and then, barely at the end come back and win it with just one quick move. I'm just not a big fan of that kind of psychology. It's not a fun match to watch. It's not even realistic. Well, I can't say it's not realistic because boxing matches, it happens all the time, but it wasn't a knockout blow. It didn't feel like that.
I will admit I did like the finish though. I did like that what do you call a leap over German release suplex. I mean, I thought that was pretty cool. The way that they ended the match, and of course, I think Dan Joseph winning that match was important. I don't know if he's going to be in the tournament. I kind of doubt it. But again, he's been representing the United Wrestling Network since he won the title back in January. So it's good to see him have some face time. Like I said, if you're going to put him in a match where he's going to be in peril for most of the match, I would rather see him wrestle someone bigger, stronger, not necessarily faster and more nimble. But Dom Kubrick, I want to give him all the credit in the world. I thought he looked great, and I can't wait to see more of him. Maybe we could see like a Danny Limelight versus a Dom Kubrick, which, two guys who are more evenly matched in both size and stature, and see what they could do again on an opening match for Primetime Live, because it's obviously Dom Kubrick is a good wrestler, he's a solid wrestler. Yeah. But the storyline wise, I was a little bit confused. Again, your United Wrestling Network champion is in peril the entire time. It just didn't make a lot of sense to me. But at the end of the day, still very happy with my purchase. It was a great way to spend 90 minutes.
Heck yeah, I agree with that.
My hat's off to those involved, Dave Marquez and company. Primetime Live continues to be a show that I enjoy every Tuesday night. Yes, there's been lulls, but I think there's been way more good than bad. And
way more good.
If you guys enjoy the show, make sure, if you haven't already got the Fight Package, go get the Fight Package. You can watch all 4 episodes, meaning not 4 episodes, but episode 5, episode 6, episode 7, episode 8. Of course, you're going to want to see who's going to be on the card for the United Wrestling Network World Championship Tournament. Plus, that card is highlighted by the Pope and the Pope Elijah Burke and Zicky Dice, the outlandish one for the NWA television title. That's a match that I'm very much looking forward to. But then the following week when the tournament kicks off, you're going to get Thunder Rosa versus Serena Deb. Serena Deb was supposed to be here to take on Allison Kay, had exposure to COVID-19, so she was never able to get that match. But now we're getting a rematch from AEW, but the NWA Championship is on the line. I mean, count me in. I think this is going to be a stellar match. And Kev, are you looking forward to these 2 matches? Are these 2 matches enough to get you to purchase the pay-per-view in the next 2 weeks?
Well, I already purchased the package deal.
Smart man.
And I knew I was going to watch them. And again, maybe I'm a throwback, but I mean, I know one thing I know I'm gonna get watching these shows is wrestling, and that's what I like. And I'm gonna get some promos. I felt like they didn't have as many promos this round, and maybe because I was at the beginning, we missed them.
Yeah.
But we didn't have as many promos this round, which I was actually disappointed. So they must have been doing something good if I missed it. So hats off to them for that. Once again, Dave Marquez and crew, whoever puts together the production for the type of show we're watching, I just feel like they totally outdo themselves. So hats off to them. Always great. I know wrestlers out there that may never, like myself, that may never get the grace the Monday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday nights on the big TV, the big shows. He gives the guys like us an opportunity to look good with high resolution and HD and those kinds of things. So hats off to them for what they do. Just grateful for it, enjoying it. I think that's all I got.
Well, that's going to wrap it up for us. Again, I want to say thank you to everybody who's been a part of our chat. If you've been watching and not chatting, I greatly appreciate you being a part of the Alliance as we sit here, and week after week, the Alliance guys will be here to talk NWA with you, the hashtag NWA fam. And, of course, Kev will be here, DKM will be here, and if they're not here, someone will be here. I'll be here. And, we really appreciate you guys tuning in every week. I know it's getting late on the East Coast. Mr. Kevin Frazier, if folks want to follow you, I know social media, you're kind of been taking a break from it, but what's the YouTube page so they can check your matches out?
Yeah, so Kevin Frazier is my shoot name. I went under the name Kevin Douglas, modern day hero. You can find me on YouTube at Kevin Douglas 247 if you just search that, or you could also go to like Kevin Douglas Wrestling, and people at my job and all that, man, they kill me. They'll look me up on YouTube, and for the next 3 weeks they're coming back. Oh, I saw this match of you and all this stuff. There's some good ones in there, not too many bad ones. So, feel free to enjoy that. Feel free if we're interacting, to bring up some of that stuff and ask me questions. I'm more than willing to talk about it. But yeah, so that's where you can find me on YouTube for wrestling. I'm also a Christian minister. If you want to go to Just Kevin 247 on YouTube, it's kind of a separate channel. Got some workout stuff on there, and then also some motivational stuff. You can find me on Instagram at Kevin Lee Frazier, all one word, FrazierJ. That was a shot.
I got it right. I fixed it.
It's okay. There's only 25 different ways to spell my last name, so I get it. You find me on Instagram there. I do have an active Twitter account. I'll probably once we get a month after the election and everything, I'll probably jump back on there. But it just social media is supposed to add to my life, not take away from it, and it was just getting to a point to where it just, Facebook has kind of turned into the same thing. I probably have unfollowed 2,000 people news feeds just because I'm just not on there for that. I don't mind a good debate about stuff, but if we all know, we all have it going on in all of our news feeds. But but I'm on Facebook, Kevin L. Frazier on Facebook, so you can find me on those social medias. And I am I do interact and react and all that kind of stuff. So if wrestling's your thing, though, go ahead and check out the YouTube videos. There's a lot of stuff on there.
As Dave Scooby points out, guys, if you enjoyed this show, if you enjoyed this podcast, wherever you're watching it, be it Twitch, Facebook, or YouTube, give us that thumbs up, hit that like button, ring the bell, subscribe, do all that good stuff, because that helps us get more content out to you guys. It helps us attract more audience, and of course, we're just trying to be a collective resource for fans of this product, for the United Wrestling Network, for the National Wrestling Alliance. So please thumbs up, subscribe, all that good stuff, follow. Also, if you would like to follow what I'm doing on all platforms, on all social media, it's at the Alliance Blog. And again, that's Facebook, Instagram, Twitch, TikTok, Tumblr, everywhere you go, that's where we're at. And that's going to do it. If you guys are on Instagram, make sure you check out me and Will Martin from This is the NWA Podcast, as we do our Friday Hot Tag live on Instagram TV. Of course, we'll be back on Tuesday for the pre-party. Hope you guys will join us for that. And until next time, ladies and gentlemen, we will see you at the matches. Y'all have a good night now.